In this video, I'm sharing with you the power of Softr. If you've never used Softr to build a custom portal for your business before, this is the video you're looking for because I am going to walk you through all the features that make Softr such a powerful tool. By the end of this video, you should feel confident going in and starting your own application in Softr. And if you're able to leverage a little bit of AI to help you build, you can get set up and running within the same day. So if learning more about building your own internal Softr application is of interest to you, stick around and let's get into it. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Gareth and this is Gap Consulting. It's our mission here to help you unlock the full potential of no-code tools in and around the Airtable space. And Softr is a leading front-end interface or app builder for Airtable and other tools in this space. And as you'll learn in this video, they even have their own data source option, so you could actually store your information directly in Softr instead of another tool. Now, since the majority of our videos on this channel are Airtable based, we're going to be using Airtable as the back end, but I do want to call out that you could use any number of data sources, and we'll go into that in more detail when we take a look at Softr's pricing. But before we get into all of this, I want to invite you to follow along with me. If you follow the instructions that we're sharing on the screen, you will see how you can get one free month of Softr Pro, which is over $100 of value. This will really help you take the first step in building in Softr to make sure that you have all the features you need to build a great application for your team. Grab that by clicking in and using the promo code that we shared on the screen. But without further ado, let's hop on into my screen, and I'm going to start with outlining my database. It's very simple. I have 3 different tables here in Airtable. And the idea is that we have an HR database for onboarding. We see our employee information here, things like their photo, their email, phone number, all of the information about the employee. And it connects to or links to other data sets. In this case, we have employee onboarding documents like the NDA that they sign or the work agreement. And we also have, if we were to scroll back over, a link to assigned equipment. So we know that in the case of Alex Johnson, we see that Alex has, these different pieces of equipment checked out to him. So maybe what we want to do is roll out an HR onboarding interface, a portal to our team. And we want to empower our teammates to log in so that they can see their own information, maybe even update some of their data, like their phone number if they change it. And we also want our team at different levels to see different things. So for example, we might want to have some people labeled as managers. In this case, we can see that Alex is assigned to Julia. Julia is his manager, and we see that by scrolling over here to the manager field. So maybe when Julia logs into this app, she sees the employees that she manages that directly report to her, which in this case is everybody else. So this way we would have a different type of interface for Julia, but the employees might see the basic version only. And Softr allows us to tackle all of this. So let's get into Softr first and foremost. I'm going to start by creating an app, and we can start from scratch, start with a template, or generate with AI. I'm going to go from scratch, and we choose our data set next. Now, as I've called out, Softr does allow for their own databases now. So if you do not already have your data living in another source, then why not build it directly in Softr? In our example, as I said, we're going to be using Airtable, but I do want to call out that there are many other options available, including Notion, Google Sheets, Smart Suite, even coming all the way down to using the REST API, which is in beta. So you can virtually get your data pretty much from anywhere into your Softr portal. The easiest option, of course, will be to build it directly in Softr if you don't already have that set up. Now, for our case, let's drill into Airtable. Setting it up is pretty quick and easy. We select our data source. And so if you've already integrated with Airtable, great. You can just find it here, or you can add it again. It's going to open this up and say, hey, what do you want to connect to? And you can add a specific base or all of your bases. So I have my base called HR base, and let's go ahead and link up to it here and grant access. Now here, it's going to ask us what base. And this is most relevant if you've allowed your source to see everything in your Airtable account. So for us, I'm just going to say HR base. And now it's going to ask, what tables do you want to turn into pages? And this is really nice because it's allowing us to quickly and easily create those pages, boom, right inside of our app. This is a newer feature that was not always available inside of Softr. So maybe I want to create pages for all of this information and say continue. Now the app is going to start building in the background, and it's going to take just a moment, not long at all. And it's already put together the first version of the app. And this is going to start looking familiar. We see a list of employees here, and this is the data that lives in our Airtable database. It was that quick and easy for us to turn this into an application. So here are the key elements of understanding Softr. Number one, where do the users come from? The people who are logging in to access this, where do they live? That is all here in the users component. So we'll select over here, and right now it's not actually synced with any source data. So we need to set this up. Now there are some base rules for you to be able to, connect to your users' information. And first and foremost, we're going to set up the Softr connection. So we have the new connection that we just built right here. We can select the HR base, and now we have to tell it what table or what object holds all of our user information. Now for us, we want our users to be our employees for our example. So we bring in our employees table. Now here's where things get a little bit more complicated. What we need to have at a minimum is an email field inside of that users table. So for us, let's flip back in here really quickly. We have our employees table with email stored here. So this allows us to tell Softr that our users are in that table, and we map to that email field just by going right here. So this is showing us all the different fields inside of that data source. And in our case, we want to link up to email, right? That is the only required field, but you have some additional fields as well, like the name field, right? So we can bring in the employee name. If they want to do a profile photo, you can do that. So I like to always add an avatar. And then we have some additional fields. We can bring in date time fields so that we can see when was that user created in Softr and when was the last time they logged into the application. So these two fields, if you add them to your data source, again, they're optional, but they can make your Softr experience that much better. So once we have this all set up, save and sync. And now we have our users automatically brought in from our source. We still have that test user that I'm going to remove. So I'll just say, get rid of this one. And I have to say delete forever in order to confirm that I want that gone. But now any new user that's added as an employee in our Airtable database will be brought in here. If we don't want every single user to be brought in, maybe we only want them to have access if they are active employees, we can set up rules inside of our sync settings. So here on the records, by default, it goes to all, but we could set up rules that say only bring in people that have a status of this. And therefore, if they don't have that, they will not be able to access the app. This is how we can control who is allowed to actually log in and access this information that we have here. Assuming that we're happy with this, this is a key takeaway for users. The second one is user groups. Now, I mentioned earlier in the video that we have this idea that maybe the managers get to see information about the people that report to them. So we might create different user groups. How would we do that? We set up rules in our user groups section here for our logged in users. So we could say something like, let's just call this the basic version. So this, for you to be the basic version, we can set up conditions that say only under certain conditions does somebody get labeled as a basic user. So we might say, as an example here, that they do not manage anybody. So how would we denote that? If we look at our data layer, if they are a manager, in the case of Julia, she does not show her own manager. And she also, if we come over here, has people reporting to her, the reciprocal of that link. So we might look for the from field manager and say, if there is information there, go back here to this. So we could say the from field manager, if it is not empty, then we know that they are a manager. So actually let's change this to say is empty. So this would mean that they don't have anyone reporting to them, making them a basic user. We could save that. And now I can create a second custom group for managers. And similarly, we'll make it condition-based, and we'll say that manager, the from field manager, is not empty, meaning that it has someone reporting to them, someone linked to them. We can save that up, and now we have basic users and managers. And if we go back to our users and we refresh our information, we'll trigger the sync, we should see those user groups getting populated. Now, because I haven't published my changes, they were not populated. So always another key takeaway, make sure that when you make changes that you want to enforce, that you publish the app, and then we can sync this again and we'll see those user groups getting filled out. So as we would expect, Julia is assigned to the manager group. And now that we have these two different groups established, we can build information in our application that is only shown to one group or the other, or both. This enables us to create unique experiences for our different users. I'll show you exactly how to do that. Let's get into our interface building here. And so maybe I want to see my direct employees, my reports. So let's rename this to be direct reports. And here in the element, you'll notice that it has a source. So it's looking and bringing information in from Airtable. It is attached to the base and to the employees, and I can select it to a view. It's the conditional filters where things get awesome. These conditional filters are where I can set up rules to say I want to bring in information that relates to me. So I could say add a condition here, and if we go back to the data layer, sometimes it's helpful to look at it. We again have the manager living here. Imagine the manager is logged into the application, and we want the manager, when they log in, to see the people who are linked to them in the manager field. So we can set this up accordingly. So let's go ahead and drop back in here now, and we're looking for that manager. And we could say is or includes, and we can bring in information about the logged in user. A record ID does not currently live in our base, but record IDs will make this way easier. So to understand this, every single record that's created in any data source, whether it's in Airtable or somewhere else, has its own unique identification, or ID, record ID. We can call this information from Airtable using a formula. So I'll build this record ID formula right here, open and close, create the field. This information now I can use to call back and make sure that the logged in user's record ID makes sense here. So I'll refresh my data source, and now I should be able to find the logged in user's record ID. Every user has their own record ID, and now we can make sure that they are the user that is linked to these different employees. So when Julia logs in, she will see only her employees. But right now, this would also mean that employees who are in the basic user group still see this block even though it will be empty. Why don't we make it a better user experience, hide this information from them, since we know that they don't have any employees? They belong in the basic users group, not the managers. So in order to do this, this is another key takeaway for building in Softr. We have visibility rules. Go over to your visibility, and we can say logged in users, but not all of them can see this. Only managers see this. So now, when a basic user logs into the application, that's it. They just see everything else, but this block of employees will be hidden to them. The managers, on the other hand, will see this, and it will only be filled out with their employees, their direct reports. We can change this title to not say just employees, but going over to the content, we can say direct reports. Now, just to test this out, let's go ahead and publish our app and preview it as different users. I like to click right here just to open up a new window that has our live version of the app. And you don't even have to publish, in fact, to be able to see the different changes that you're making in the app. So you can test these things out before you actually publish and deploy. So here I'm impersonating George. In the upper left corner, you see that this is one of the employees who is a basic user. We see all the information here. This is bringing from the users table. But I want to impersonate Julia. Before doing that, though, let's point out that George just sees the basic homepage with these three options. Now let's switch over to impersonate Julia to see what her experience looks like. Remember, Julia is a manager, and she will see her direct reports. So I select Julia in the preview as, I get a pop-up that says any changes you make to the underlying data is actually going to be reflected in your data. I understand. And we will move on. So when Julia logs in, she sees this block for her direct reports, and she sees the information about the people that report to her. So this is how we build different experiences for different user groups directly in the same application. Now let's go back into Softr itself and explore how the pages work. It's simple enough to build new pages and to set visibility for these pages. Maybe you want the page to only be visible to people who log in. So here we have the login visibility rule established, so only logged in users can see this. As opposed to people who come to the web application without logging in. Maybe you build some public-facing pages as well so that people know what this application does. You can choose between both static and dynamic data. Now, as we've already displayed, a lot of this information was pre-populated for us. We have employees that link to employee details, so we can drill into a particular employee and see a breakdown of that employee information. We have equipment and equipment details. We have documents and document details, because this is the information that lived in our database when we first synced it up. But as I said, we can also build static information in our pages. So maybe we just wanted to build a home page. We might call that home. And we can come here and bring in blocks. Blocks are the key components, the building blocks, if you will, of this software. So we have the dynamic elements, and we can choose list views or grid views or table views. We can build forms directly inside of Softr as well. We can even include these nice new quick links, which just gives us the option of dropping some quick links into a page. But if we don't want to do dynamic information, we can do static. We can add a hero section in here. Drop in a hero section with some calls to action, for example. We can update this information, make this a photo or a picture of whatever we would like, add a background, change the color, change the text. These are the static components of Softr. We can also come in and look at other blocks like gallery, just bringing in photos, bringing in pricing cards, bringing in a team display of different teammates. So a lot of information that we can share just for building public-facing applications, things that are not requiring user login. There's a lot of options. I also want to call out that we have some container options, which gives us greater design flexibility. So we could include something like a 3-column container here, and then drop in different components within our containers. We also have things like graphs, bar charts. We could bring in item details. We can, as I mentioned, work with forms, list views, grid views, item details, tables, calendars, Kanban. The sky's the limit. How do you want your users to visualize their information? Even when dropping inside of containers, we have the option of going between dynamic and static information. So if we want to bring in those quick links, for example, here's how the quick links work. Or we could drop into this one and bring in some static data. We could do a call to action, little button here. And we can also come in and drop in some dynamic information, maybe a chart, for example. I want to bring in, let's say, a graph. So I can map that to information so that it's actually pulling in live data from my source, and I can then display that visually for my team. So you see how Softr has so many options, allowing us to build better applications within our team. Now, one more thing I want to call out now, because it's a relatively new feature in Softr at the end of 2025, is that they have their workflows. So let's actually walk away from our application right now, and out here we have workflows. This is where we can access those newer features of Softr. So if we wanted to build an internal database, we have the database option right here. And then if we want to build workflows, automated processes directly within Softr, we can create them. We can select triggers from Airtable, Gmail, or Google Sheets. We can also choose triggers from Softr applications and Softr databases. And then we can do things like built-in webhooks, one-time scheduling, or recurring scheduling. So actually, let's see what happens if we add a new record in Airtable. As an example, you see that it's a 1-minute timer for me given my user accounts. And then I can build out an automation process connecting to Google Calendar, OpenAI, postmark, sending emails, all kinds of things. This enables us to take our applications to the next level and really lean into all of the key features of a proper application when we build out our software for our apps. Now, of course, the amount of automation you get is going to be dependent on your pricing plan. So to wrap things up, let's take a quick look at Softr pricing so that you understand what you can do for what amount of money. Now, as I called out at the beginning of the video, the professional plan here, you can get 1 month free by using the free code that we showed you at the beginning. So it is quite a good value, and thanks to Softr for sharing that option with our audience. But Softr has 5 different items or packages that they publish all the way on the free side to allow you to get started without even spending a dime. But most users are going to be somewhere in the basic to business tier, depending on the number of users usually for your application and what data source you want to sync up with. So you can see that the data sources here, Quota, Softr, Airtable, Google Sheets, those are all available on the basic and most of them even on the free plan. But when you want to get into the more hardcore database sources, things like, we've got Postgres, right? We've got REST API. You've got ClickUp here at the business tier. It's also on the professional tier. But more data sources becoming available the higher tier you're on. But the real benefits here are how many records you can store in your Softr database, up to 1 million for your Softr database. You also get 25,000 Softr workflow actions at the highest tier and 10,000 AI credits, which we didn't even go into. But you can leverage AI inside of your Softr applications, both in the form of automation, but also in helping you to build a better application for your team. So a lot of different options for you on Softr. Most of the limitations come around the number of user groups that you get, 2 on the basic plans. These are, in our case, the basic tier and then the managers. So we had those 2 user types. For a basic user, you're looking at the 2 user groups. But when you start upgrading, you get more user groups. And then also, of course, as we called out, the number of app users. I think this is probably one of the most limiting factors of Softr, and that reason that I very frequently am on business tiers with our clients because of the fact that they have so many users. If you have over 100 users, you're probably best fit for that business tier. So that's Softr 101. I know we went quickly here, but we have a ton of resources available for you on our website. So if you're building in Softr and you're getting stuck, swing by and see if we have a resource to help you get unstuck. We also offer a free strategy session with our team. If you want to hop on a quick call, we can walk you through where you're at, understanding your goals, and recommend some plans for you moving forward to get more out of these tools. That's it for this video. I hope you got a ton of value. We'd love a thumbs up, a subscription to the channel if you love this kind of content, but the most important thing is that you keep on building.